Number one, this book really talks about Joseph Kennedy's business acumen, how he got started in banking, then it went to Hollywood, and then also how he used to short the stock market. And those three ways are how he was able to make such a fortune. And in addition to that, he also created a trust fund for each one of his children. This book goes into great detail about that. It's extremely interesting to figure out how he made his money. And then when the stock market crashed, they put him as the head. And then he kind of knew the tricks of the trade and then basically outlawed it, which is really interesting if you think about it. So he made his money and then cut off the rest of the folks from making the money the way that he had done previously. Number two, controversial political ambition. He served as the U.S. ambassador to the UK, but he had to resign because he had an isolationist stance. This book goes into extreme detail about that and what happened at that time and how it was as he was doing it, because it has all of his notes and his memoirs, and it's extremely interesting about how isolated he felt, even though it's kind of interesting because he took an isolationist stance. He was isolated at the time from the current president at the time, which was FDR, which is really, really interesting in my opinion. Number three, Kennedy family legacy. He strategically placed his children. And also, one thing that I really did like about this book was it talked about while his kids were in the spotlight, he did everything he could to be in the background and support them and kind of stay away from the media. And there's even a part in here where he wrote an essay and JFK wrote an essay, and JFK did basically talking the exact opposite of his father. That way that his father's ambassadorship and all those things were not tagged onto his son, which was really interesting. And it goes into great detail within that chapter about the difference of that, and throughout the book, of him getting out of the way of his son, staying away from the media, and also supporting them, calling folks, trying to fund things for his own children. It's very interesting, and I would strongly suggest that those parts are very eye-opening as far as how he was as a person. So it also talks about his personal tragedies and his control over his family. He had to endure his first son, Joe Jr., dying over the Atlantic bombing raid, JFK obviously being assassinated, and unfortunately he made the decision to lobotomize one of his children, his daughter, and for 30 years he kind of just sent her away, and there was really no contact, no letters, no nothing. And she just kind of was on her own after that. It's very interesting how he just kind of like stopped. I don't know if it was ultimate pain in his life or what, but it's very interesting how he just cut out his daughter and kind of let her live out her life. And then obviously another one of his daughters died in a plane crash. That's also talked about in this book and his effect on him. So extremely tragic, the entire family and how it ended up as far as the deaths. He has a lot of moral complexity and influence within the 20th century politics, and he's a deeply ambitious figure. And what I really like about this book and the way that it's written is it kind of gives you, the viewer, to make your own decision of, was he a good guy? Was he a bad guy? Was he right here? Was he wrong there? And was he questionable here? Was he questionable there? And that's something that this book does a really good job of, just presenting the facts and kind of letting your mind wonder, was that a really great idea? Was that a good decision? Was it a bad decision? And I found it extremely interesting as far as I'm concerned. And just so you guys know, I am going to leave the book of Bill Clinton as the follow-on video to this one, so you guys can check that out if you so choose to do so. I am on Instagram more than I am on YouTube, so if you'd like to check me out there, that'll be down in the description. I also have a Patreon if you'd like to support me financially. If today's the day that earns subscription, I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.